Good evening. I was glad, I walked in over here. I met up with somebody who started working after I quit working, banking, and suddenly felt like a very old guy. So it was good catching up with you. So at least we're the same vintage now. But when Brijesh asked me to come and speak over here, I was like, what can I talk over here? Because I'm sort of not really in the venture world. I've been in some startups, and a lot of my lessons were sort of going back many, many years ago. But uh, but Brijesh is persuasive, and said you should be over here. And then I asked him, what should I talk about? What will be of interest to you? And what we decided was, therefore, I'll talk for a little while, and then get into a conversation with him, and just have a dialogue over here. Otherwise, I'll be talking like this old guy over here randomly. But she said, talk about the entrepreneurial journey you had. When I finished my CA and then business school, which was way back in 1989, we didn't use words like entrepreneur, cap tables, startups. All these words didn't exist over there, and your aim was really to go work in a bank or being in a consulting firm and work for the rest of your life. And what happened as a result was, but what instead happened was I had this charming life when in 1994, I get a call, Luis, we're starting a bank. Are you interested? And at that time, I was working for a foreign bank, and I had enough of multinational banks, and I said I wanted to do something which was, which was, where I didn't have to base on the decision made by someone sitting halfway across the world. And in those days, in '94, those companies which were professional in India didn't pay a decent wage, and those who paid a decent wage were not professional. So when this, I think, came about, we're starting a bank, my father thought it was crazy. A lot of people thought we were crazy to quit our foreign bank jobs, and I decided that I shall do that, and my wife was very supportive, and I came across, I was employee number 3 at HDFC Bank. And then I didn't realize, but then for the last 30 years, all I've been doing is being in startups here. It was HDFC Bank, and then Chris Capital in its early days in 2000, and then starting IDFC Private Equity in 2002, and more recently starting the Indian School of Public Policy, a non-profit, in 2018. But when you put all of that together, the sort of the lesson that sort of keeps coming to my mind is that every time I started some of these things, I was told, Louis, you're crazy. And for all you sort of entrepreneurs out over here, I think it's good to be crazy. It's easier. Well, let me rephrase that. It's tougher when you're trying to do something which hasn't been done before, but the rewards can be fascinating. And I remember when we started IDFC Private Equity, it was by accident. I had reached out to one of my mentors, Deepak Parekh, and I told him, Deepak, I've had enough of the tech world at Chris Capital, and I'd like to do something on the development side. So he said, come over tomorrow. So I met up with him, and he told me, Louis, do you want to go back to the bank, HDFC Bank? And I said, no, not really interested. I want to do something on the development side, and give me something to do with low-income housing, and I want to leave by 3 o'clock so I can be home with the kids when they come home from school. And he said, Louis, I don't have that lifestyle. I don't see why you should, but we've got a mandate to set up an infrastructure fund from the government. Why don't you do that? And I thought that was very interesting, except for 2 factors. One, I've never made an investment in my life, and 2, I knew nothing about infrastructure. And then I had the next most incredible 8 years of my life doing that here. So what's the lesson really from all of that here? That if you believe in yourself and you work hard and you surround yourself with good people, you can do amazing things here. What actually got me connected with Brijesh was a podcast that did a couple of months ago, where I talked about my life lessons in an acronym that I came up with called LBW Plus. And it actually was based on a conversation I was having last May in Chicago when I was talking to some of the current students at Chicago booth. And I talked about how lucky I've been in life and how everything that I've done has been because somebody else has suggested it to me. Everything, whether it was coming back to India in '89, HDFC Bank, Chris Capital, IDFC, private equity, Indian School of Public Policy. It was never my idea. It was always someone else's idea. They said, Louis, what do you think about this? And I grabbed that. So I've just been lucky to be surrounded by people around me. And then one of my classmates said, Louis, it's more than just luck. There's also the sort of the skills that you've built up over time. So I wanted to share with you this sort of deep research on what made me successful based on a deep research done on a sample size of 1. That's me. So the L stands for luck. I've just been lucky. And a lot of people talk about how they've been working hard and etc. And we've done all of that. But luck plays a large part in our lives. And for me, the luck was 1, to be given these opportunities, and 2, to be surrounded by favorable times that we've sort of been able to do well. The B in this stands for the box of tools that we pick up along the way. What you've learned at school, what you've learned at college, what you've learned at work, etc. And that's also important because it's not just about luck, but you need to how to do things. And then comes the W, which is working hard. We were just talking about that earlier, about working smart, working hard, etc. But the fact is that I'm never the smartest guy in the room. There's always someone smarter than me, but I can work hard, and I can sort of network well. So the ability to work hard is so important. It doesn't detract, as we were talking about working smart, but it's important. And then the plus is having a life partner who will be supportive of you. That's so important. I've met too many friends in my life who've actually ended up being very miserable because they picked a wrong life partner, or they screwed up that relationship because of their own stupidity. But really having a life partner is also very important to go along in life. But when people tell me, Louis, you came back to India in '89 when it wasn't fashionable to come back. You quit your foreign bank job to start a bank in India when at that time private sector banks were not known. You quit HDFC Bank when the bank was doing great to get into the dot-com bubble when the whole thing was exploding. You got into infrastructure when no one believed in infrastructure. What made you do all these things was very risky. And honestly, I never saw that as being risky. I never thought any of those decisions were sort of look really crazy the way it's made out to be. Because for the simple reason that I just bet on the fact that India is going to grow. It was this sort of irrational sort of view that the country is going to grow, there's going to be huge opportunity. If you sort of were to execute well, you'll be able to do something and you won't be on the street. And the other thing, the other sort of thing which I keep telling young people is, we're on average going to live till we're 80, 90 years old. What's wrong if you screw up and make a wrong decision? You lose 2-3 years of your life, so what? Maybe your ego gets bashed up a bit, but that's the only thing here. And I've had some failed startups in my life also. Remember, I was in the board of a company called CSIR Tech. We try to innovate, to commercialize the innovation in the CSIR labs. That company died out. It was a disaster. It didn't work out. But the fact is that we worry too much in life about the downside. And it's important to keep that in mind. But actually the excitement is when there's upside here. So when you look at, Brijesh said, talk about the India 1.0 when we started HDFC Bank, what were the lessons? And at that time, people were skeptical. It looks like a no-brainer today when I talk to people, it must have been very easy setting up HDFC Bank. Way back in '94, before some of you all were born, it was difficult to get people to join us. A lot of people were very skeptical. Why should I quit my foreign bank job? Why should I come and join you guys? And but what sort of, if you look back, what was the reason why the bank was so successful was, one, we built up a great team. And that's important. Whatever, if you want to be successful as an entrepreneur, you need to get great people. Not necessarily the best, but you need great people. And people who are committed to work at lower salaries, and be able to. When I look today at startups and the fancy offices that they have, etc., we didn't have any of that. Our first office at the bank was when we moved into Sandoz House, and we had rented furniture, steel furniture. We had, our LAN was wires running across the floor of the office, stuck with tape, and if anyone kicked the wire, then the whole LAN collapsed. We didn't have enough chairs, so if you came late to office, you had to stand. And the first training session that I did in the bank was under a tree because we didn't have a conference room. And so when Tamal Bandyopadhyay wrote a book about the bank, he called me up one day and said, Louis, what was the tree you gave your lecture under? And I said, I have no idea, but the tree was still existing at that time in Kamla Mills. But that's really what you look back. So one was the team. The second is execution. It's so important to focus on execution and getting it right. It's not necessarily about being perfect over here, but at least have that basic thing about execution. And our favorite story about execution was when we had our first ATM machine. And one of our board directors went to withdraw money, and the machine swallowed his card. And that was a lot of chaos the next day. The third thing was that we never focused on market cap. We've never had any discussion on what the market cap was, what's the share price, etc. Never. It was all about just let's build a bank that, and our aim was never to build up a valuable bank at that time. It was just let's build a bank that we can show the foreign banks that you can build an Indian bank that can give them a run for their money. It was just that, yeah. It was never about building. We never imagined that the bank would be as valuable as it is today. And if I'd known that, I wouldn't have sold some of my stocks so early. Yeah. But the fact is that, it was never about making money. Money came along because we executed well, we focused on execution. The other thing we did very strongly at HDFC Bank was controls, compliance. That was sort of paramount over there. And in the initial years of the bank, we actually underperformed some of the other banks. And our board would tell us, you guys are supposed to be the fancy bankers, and everyone else is making more money than you. And actually, interestingly, it's only after about 2 years or 3 years when there was a slowdown in the economy and the credit issues came up in other banks, did the HDFC Bank stock go up. For the first couple of years, we underperformed the market until that happened. And then the next point was we experimented a lot, but we would pull the plug if something didn't go well. That's nowhere to stop your losses. So that's some of the lessons that we learned over there in HDFC Bank when we were starting it off. Similarly, when we started IDFC Private Equity, everyone said you're crazy. It was in 2002. There were 2 infrastructure stocks that had gone public at that time, and both were trading below the IPO price. One was Tata Teleservices, the other one was Bharti Airtel. And everyone was skeptical. You can't make money investing in infrastructure. The whole story, the whole power story of the late 90s was sort of all with red. And I knew nothing about infrastructure, as I said. All I knew was that everyone was betting on India's growth story, and unless infrastructure improved, we will not be able to, no one will make money in the country, so infrastructure will improve. And I remember when we decided to bid for Delhi Airport with GMR, the guys and a lot of people said, why are you participating in a bid? Why don't you just invest in the winner? And to us, it was a chance for us to understand banking. We knew nothing about airports. So with GMR and others, they were developing an airport in Hyderabad. Remember, we got together in ISB in Hyderabad for a 3-day learning session, a workshop on what airports are. And we got people from all over the world to teach us what airports were. We had people from Manchester Airport, we had people from Australia come down, and there was this other guy who was running South Africa airports, and airways rather. And that's how we learned airports. And We then bid for the airport. We spent a lot of money trying to build up a bid. We camped out in London. And we were the underdogs. No one expected us to win. And then we surprisingly won the bid. And we had some interesting times, including our office being broken into and all our computers being stolen with all our bid documents. So a lot of those interesting stories were over there. But when we won, Reliance immediately sued both the government and us, saying that the process was faulty. We went in again through the whole court legal process, and we won that also. But that's it, it was just hard work in making sure that that gets done. And that's why the LBW Plus becomes so important over here. I'm going to actually shut up now. And Brijesh, where are you? And get into a conversation, because otherwise I'll just keep rambling like this 63-year-old guy to people who are half my age. And hey, will you please come and help me over here? Okay. So yeah, but that's it. It's good talking. Actually, I look forward to more of a conversation than sort of giving my ramblings about what's to be done. Brijesh? Okay. Just give us a second. All right. Hello? On? Okay. I'm all set here.
Check. Check. Hello. ठीक है. It's like Ripley's law. Something has to go south. It will go south. Namaskar and thank you everyone. So a round of applause for Luis, who has been gracious enough to come. Rumi says a lot, but Rumi once said, when setting out on a journey, do not seek advice from someone who never left home. And Luis has left home multiple times. And when you started in 2000, as he's a banker, but he left banking in 2000 when it was in fashion. And today, when you see the India story, like you said, like you used to come to Gurgaon a lot, but nowadays you don't want to come to Gurgaon for the traffic part. But besides that, if you want to connect what you saw or experienced, in the decade of 2000, when a lot of us were, maybe young kids or maybe in their teens or early working, or some of the young entrepreneurs out here who were still not born. And you see today, 2025, what is that you see? And what is that you don't see? Because when the fourth window of Johari, unknown and unseen, if you can say that.
So actually, the, uh, the world we see is actually through our kids today. And also when I hang out with the students at the Indian School of Public Policy and see the world through their eyes, I think there's just so much of excitement around as well as a lot of uncertainty. Uncertainty because the old order that we knew for the last 70 odd years is changing thanks to Mr. Trump and various other people. And there's going to be a lot more uncertainty. I was just at at an event this morning and I was talking about the fact that uncertainty actually creates opportunity. Over the years, I've met many friends of mine who've come back after being in the US for long and they would talk about why things don't work. And I said, that's exactly why there's an opportunity to make money. Because the fact that there's always, if things worked and everything was fine, then there wouldn't be that opportunity. If it was easy, nothing in life has been easy. Everything is sort of requires work over here. But when you look at over the last 20 years, what's been there, what's great is this buzz. You go anywhere else in the world, it's boring, it's dull, it looks jaded. Here there is excitement. I remember in the 90s when a friend of mine told me that, Luis, when you go anywhere in Asia, you're seeing high-level cranes around. You don't see those cranes building buildings in India. Today they're all over the place here. You don't see, big brands out over there. You see them all over the place today. You see, there's a hustle around over here. That's what's, I think, important over here. There will be challenges, there will be pension, there is pollution, there is all these other issues, but that's actually what keeps you going, that keeps the excitement going over here. It is easy sometimes to get suffocated with the problems that we face with. But let's look at some of the things that have changed. Poverty is to a large extent gone. We don't see that poverty that we saw earlier, even in rural parts of the country. We don't necessarily, we see a lot of young people aspiring to do great things. We see a government that is focused on trying to make things better over here. And I just think I look at all these things and I just think that it's a very challenging as well as interesting time coming up over here for the country.
I'll come to LBW Plus at some point of time, but before that, if you can share, what not to do for entrepreneurs of various ages. Today you have got entrepreneurs who are in early 20s and also late 50s or mid 50s or mid 40s. Today age is not a number for being an entrepreneur. So what not to do, like 1, 2 and 3 with your real life examples, because that's what we need to understand.
I think the first thing is just focus on building a business and not worry about market cap. We've talked about that earlier. Today, everyone's worried about market cap or how much. When I meet someone and they tell me I've got this great business and it's going to be worth so much money, I immediately have lost interest. It's always about, but my question always will be, how are you going to make this a better world? What you going to try to achieve from doing this as opposed to, I'm going to make a lot of money. And that's something which is, in my view, a big problem. If everyone's focusing only on market cap, it creates a challenge over here. And the problem is that quite often you are pushed to market cap because you've got a stupid private equity guy or venture capitalist sitting on your board asking you what the parameters for it. But it's a journey. It's a journey, and that's what's important. Then the second thing is really enjoy the journey. We were talking about it earlier. It's not about the destiny that's going to drive you, but the journey. And as long as you're sort of focusing on creating a business that is viable and you're enjoying the journey, you're on the right track here. I think it's important also for people to work hard but not burn out. Be kind to yourself. A lot of people get messed up trying to, I've done my time sleeping on sofas in the office, getting up at 4 o'clock, sleeping few hours, and all that's par for the course, but you also need to take time off. You need to sort of, get your sanity back. And I remember when years ago when I was at Chris Capital, there was one investment we had where some of the investors wanted to get out. And this entrepreneur was being pushed to take a huge loan to buy out the other investors. This I'm going back to 2000, so it's really, really a long, long time ago. And I sat down with him and I told him, don't do that. Yeah? And he said, why? I said, because today you have no debt. You're young, you've got two young kids and a wife. And if you take debt to buy out these guys, you're going to be so stressed about how do you settle that debt. And if you get knocked down by a bus tomorrow, your wife and family are finished. They'll have debt only, they'll have nothing over here. And he said, Louis, and we're still friends after 25 years. He said, Louis, you're the only person at that time who told me don't take that debt. The bus didn't hit him. He survived over there. But it's important, therefore, as investors also for us, that's investor, is how do we deal with people and travel with them on their journey? Everything is not be good. It's invariable that your business plan will not work out. And that's when you and your investor also need to communicate well. The challenge I find also quite often is that you get excited about valuations because bankers tell you they can have this fabulous valuation. You then also get invested in with an investor who believes in that story, and then suddenly life becomes tough because shit happens. And at that stage, how do you guys work together is important. We've had challenges with some of the companies we did. I remember the first investment we did was in GMR Energy. And a month or two after we made that investment, Chandrababu Naidu lost his election in Andhra. And YSR came into power, and the first thing he did was revoke the PPA, the power purchase agreement for that. And we just looked at it and said, our first investment, and everyone said, you can't make money investing in infrastructure, and it was just unfolding in front of us. And eventually we made a lot of money from that investment. We just worked hard on it. So I guess that's some of the thoughts.
No, so one thing is that you should remain resilient.
That's important, yeah.
And believe in self.
Yes.
Let's ask one thing. Today, you come across opportunities, but the articulation by the promoter or the founder, is missing. And that lack of articulation causes a lot of pain in the journey. Now, there's a simple answer to that, but how do you address that part?
What do you mean by loss of articulation?
You're not able to articulate, about your product. You're not able to articulate what service it will do. You're not able to show the picture of what you're wanting to do in a manner which the potential investor understands or wants to understand. And that's something which is, missing in the ecosystem. How do you address that part of it?
I think part of being a successful entrepreneur is also being a good storyteller. And the ability to tell the story is important. But that only gets you your first check. That doesn't, and that's something which we all have to learn here, that we make money when we sell, not when we raise money. I mean, till then it's only paper money, and I've seen a lot of paper money in my life here. We got killed in the 2008 crash, global financial crisis, and some of those companies never recovered. So, and they were all at very nice multiples before the crash here. So I think I think entrepreneurs need to learn how to tell a story, how to sort of explain themselves. And that's where people like you, Brijesh, come into the picture. You've been successful, you've built out businesses, you know how to tell the story. How do you help them tell the story?
Yeah, that's true. You handhold them, but
Yep.
you can only take the, up to for fishing, you can use a rod, but you cannot fish for them. So how you can, that's where, from experience of building enterprises, be it financial services, be it infrastructure, be it being a GP in a PE firm, or right now in the public policy, how you travel that journey and how you are able to articulate yourself, and maybe one or two example where you didn't knew it, but you were able to articulate and make it forward.
Well, I'll give you a simple example of the Indian School of Public Policy. It's a non-profit, so there's no market cap, etc. But when we first started working on it in 2018, people tried to ask, what is public policy? What are we trying to do? You know, what are you going to be teaching? And for us, the first few years was just trying to explain what we were trying to do. Fast forward to today, when they've seen what we've done, what are we trying to do? We're just trying to create next-gen policy leaders for a rising India. The biggest challenge, I think one of the biggest challenges we're facing in the country is we don't have policies that facilitate growth. How do we make that happen? And you know, when you look, for example, at healthcare, in April 2019, JP Narayan told me, Louis, every year 6 crore people go back into poverty because of healthcare costs. And I looked at that number and I said, that's a ridiculously large number. That's 5% of the population going back into poverty because of healthcare cost. And there have been so many steps from the government over the years, including Ayushman Bharat, and still people go back into poverty. The last 2 months, I've come across 2 cases of people connected with us where they couldn't afford their medical bills. And how do you solve that problem? So we're setting up a center for affordable, accessible healthcare in the country, led by Dr. Srinath Reddy, who is India's premier public health professional. The aim is really, how do you make healthcare in India affordable, accessible, and available? So it takes some time. I mean, we struggle in between. We had this lovely business plan. We started in 2019. We raised money which we thought would be enough for us for the first 3 years. 6 months later, COVID happens. And we were not prepared at all for this, like most of the world. We had to move online, and then we had to place our first batch. Imagine the challenge we had. 1, no one's recruiting in 2020. 2, we were graduating people in a program which people didn't understand what they did. 3, our students had all gone home and they were being taught online, and they had not had any experience on interviewing or anything like that. But we worked hard. It took us 5 months and we placed the whole batch. So it's how do you tell the story? How do you sell? How do you convince people to recruit?
So every entrepreneur, promoter is a chief storyteller.
Yep.
One last cue before I throw it to the audience, and that comes from, you know, your acronym, LBW plus. Now, this was something which happened to you, you know, post your corporate career, or it happened, you came to know as you were doing a corporate career? And if you can, you know, give some examples of, you know, LBW plus, you know, plus, we shared that that's the most important part of the thing, which is not considered much or given much importance. But if on the LBW plus, LBW, if you can talk more, how does that work?
Sure, yeah, that acronym only came in a year ago, so I never sort of articulated it before. But we'll come back to the luck part a little later, but let's look at the box of tools. I was a CA, I was done an MBA, I worked in banking, and then in 1999, I was pitching for business to Infosys. I was introduced to Mohandas Pai, and I sent him an email, and I said, I'd like to meet you, and he blew me off. He said, I'm busy, meet my assistant Bala. So I'm sitting with Bala and talking to him about why they should bank with HDFC Bank. And Mohan walks into the room and we got talking about something, and he tells me, Louis, you're wasting your time in banking. You should be in the tech sector. And I told him, you're crazy, because I was intrigued by the .com at that time. Everyone was doing all these fancy things with the internet world. And I couldn't figure out how I could add value over there. I've been a banker. I was a treasury guy. And suddenly I started getting a whole lot of phone calls. And the model at that time I realized was very simple. Yeah. IT company, you want to go public, you need to get someone to a CFO to help you. So the model was very simple. IT company plus CFO equals IPO. Simple. That was a simple model at that time. So you have a tech company, you need to go public, you need a CFO, you call up Mohan says, call up Louis. The model was very simple. And I was talking to my wife and saying, why is it that people are calling me up when I've just been a banker? And then suddenly I realized that we all quite often underestimate the box of tools that we have. What is it that I had? I'm a chartered accountant. I've got to a good business school. I've been in a startup. I've been a banker. And I can bullshit. So I'm a good CFO. Yeah? And I ended up actually, so I decided that I would join the small company in Bangalore. And so I go to Aditya Puri on a Friday evening. Well, I've been talking to him for some time saying, I've had enough of this, I want to do something different. And I tell him I'm leaving, and he said, where are you going? And I said, I'm going to join the small company in Bangalore. And he said, you're stupid, you can't leave HDFC Bank to join the small company. I refuse to talk to you, let's talk on Monday. So and this is a real story. I went back to my room, and I called up this young fund, which had just started banking with us, Auxano Capital. At that time it was called that. And I tell them, look, I'm joining this company. What do you think about it? And she says, we've just come out of a meeting with Mohandas Pai. We were telling him about how we want to expand our team, and he said, we should talk to you. So I said, when I'm joining this company, he said, can we meet for breakfast tomorrow? So I met him for breakfast on Saturday. Sunday, I decided that I will become a venture capitalist. And Monday, I go tell Aditya, I'm becoming a venture capitalist. That's what luck is about sometimes. And it's that box of tools which created that opportunity for them to say, listen, why don't you join us? And I knew nothing about the whole world. But yes, I was a chartered accountant at some stage in my life here. And then comes the hard work. We worked hard at Chris Capital because it was the whole internet world was collapsing. All those great companies which had very high mark-to-market valuations just sort of evaporated in 2000. And we had invested in some of the best sort of tech companies at that time, and they were all falling apart. But we worked hard, and I've never seen someone who works as hard as Ashish, and he's extremely smart also. And we managed to raise another fund. That fund also struggled a bit. And then the rest of Chris Capital's story has been a very successful fund operation. So, and even when you're starting HDFC Bank, starting IDFC private equity, how do you get people to invest? Took us a lot of time over there to get our first investors in. And then it was all about working hard over there. So that's the B, that's the W. I've talked about the L. We've talked about the plus.
So yeah, fantastic. So you have struggles and you also have serendipity in play.
Yep. Serendipity is always sort of, in hindsight here. it's always lucky. You can, I look back, part of the reason we were successful also at HDFC, at IDFC private equity was that in 2002 we started the fund, and Manmohan Singh got elected as Prime Minister. He kept talking about infrastructure, and we just rode the boom. And then, things just happened, and we were lucky to be at the right time at the right place.
So karam karte jao, phal aa jayega. Great. Any cues from the audience quickly?
Yep, someone there.
You have a mic?
You need a mic out over there, please.
Yeah.
Because I try to sort of keep things simple, because honestly, life is simple. We can complicate it. We complicate it when we're talking to investors because we want to sound intelligent. But life is actually pretty simple over here. It's about just LBW plus. Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, Louis. Your experiences got me thinking. And I've spent all my career in fast-moving consumer goods, around 12 years, not as much, but 12 years in consumer goods. And I've seen a shift in people, human resources. So I've seen a shift from a mindset of scarcity that people had, or people who were coming in, say, 12, 15 years back into the companies that I've worked, versus a mindset of abundance that exists now. For example, we don't see people wanting to move abroad as much as we used to 12 years back or 15 years back. So how do you think this plays into, and you're working with young students where, again, you'd have seen that shift. in the public policy space. 15 years back, it's only engineering and medicine. And today you have development studies and you have public policy, and that there are enough and more careers that are available, right? So how do you feel this shift from a mindset of scarcity, which I think all of us have had when we were growing up, to a mindset of abundance is going to play out for India going ahead?
That's a great question, actually, and there's a lot of work done on the whole thing of scarcity. Just to put things in perspective, people talk about how difficult life is today. My wife and I dated long distance for 3 years. She was finishing off her PhD in the US, and I was a lowly paid city banker in Bombay. And this was from 89 to 92. There was no email. There was no FaceTime. There was no WhatsApp. There was a world like that at one time here. We wrote letters to each other. Every Monday we wrote a letter to each other. We have a box of letters at our house. Our kids went to that and found them very boring. But that's it. That's how we stayed in touch with. And I couldn't afford phone calls, so very rarely we would. And if I needed to contact her urgently, I would have to send a fax, which went through the main office at the university and then went to her department. So by that time she got it, everyone in the university had read that fax. So, but that's the sort of scarcity that we grew up. And you're right, today there is an abundance. There's abundance of capital. There's abundance in a lot of stuff. And it creates a sense of entitlement also, which is a challenge. And the point I have is with a lot of these young guys is that you will suffer if you have that entitlement, if you're not willing to work hard, and if you're not willing to struggle. Today, people give up easily because you can. I remember years ago when I funded one of my former colleagues. He was setting up a company to give loans for skilling. And I was skeptical about his business, but I wanted to support him. So we said, okay, we invested. That money was written off. And the reason why people left after getting skilled, they would leave their job and just disappear was, I didn't like my boss. My boss shouted at me. I didn't like the food. It was too hot. You know, we never had those opportunities here. We slogged it out here. We worked hard. And so, but at the same time also, it forces a lot of you to say, treat us a bit kindly, which is fine. But it gives you also opportunities to chase your passion, to chase what you're interested in doing. And I'm serious about the fact that if you're all going to live on average till 80, do stuff, and if it doesn't work out, you can always go back here. I remember when our kid, this is a silly story, but when our kid was in his 3rd standard, he wanted to watch a football game. He had an exam the next day, and the European League matches were at 12:30 in the morning or something like that. And we watched the game, and we went and got a pizza also. And my friend said, you've been a very irresponsible father. And my point was that in my entire career, no one ever asked me, what did you get in the 3rd standard in math? So it's, the other thing also is for young people who are growing up in this place of scarcity, the other thing is don't take yourself too seriously. You overthink. You take and enjoy life. Yeah? Life's not, it's not that struggle that it's made out to be. I mean, I remember I struggled to get a job way back in 89, yeah, and I thought I was this failure because I couldn't get a decent job in the US. I had offers, but they weren't very exciting. And to me, the most exciting offer was this job in India, and I took that, and I thought I was this failure because I couldn't get a sexy job in the US. And I had the distinction of being the lowest paid guy in my graduating class at Booth. But I think I was one of the first guys to quit working here because of that opportunity India threw up, which I didn't see in 89. I just happened to be lucky. I came back in 89, 91, the markets opened up.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thanks, Luis. So we'll have, more in offering. So thanks, Luis, for being here. We have a token of appreciation for you. A round of applause for Mr. Luis.
Thank you, Mr. Luis, for sharing your invaluable insights. Now, I would request Mr. Ashish Padiyar to give the token of appreciation. Next up, we have Mr. Brijesh Damodaran, Managing Partner, Auxano Capital, who will share insights on Auxano's journey and the India opportunity.
ऊपर लेफ्ट ऊपर नीचे चेक Thanks, Luis. We like, understand from personal experience and anecdotes because that is very interesting. Many of you in the audience know about Auxano, but those who know less, I would like to share a quick. Okay, thanks, Vikram. A quick insights into what we do. Auxano means growth, and that's where the growth capital comes into play. This is all of it, which you have seen. In the last 3 months, it has been a lot of turmoil. But having said that, if you see how the per capita GDP can grow, which can have impacts across space, we have industries of alcohol, hospitality, infrastructure, banking, luxury items, real estate, you name it. And we are in that space where the genes in which today which are born, we are very lucky. Now, having said that, we also have a genomics company, Tony, out there. Should have a look into that. If I had looked at the same time, March 24, the Dolex would have been much more than S&P 500, but then it's only a matter of time. And if you look at AIFs, which is very interesting, you've seen more than 30% growth in the capital which has come into play. Like more and more investors are actually contributing money in this specific asset class. When we go to the next slide, which will actually show how the growth has happened. So if you look here, only 20 crores in 2014 was in play. We talk about the commitments. But you look at 2014, what is the amount? More than 5 lakh crores. Something which is unimaginable. What could happen in the next 10 years? Maybe 1 more zero, 2 more zeros. I don't want to predict that, but having said that, the only thing which we know is that we don't know simply because how it can share. Because I believe, like what Luis saw in 1999 and what Luis is seeing today, he must not have any imagined or fathomable. Am I on that track? So what is our way? So we identify emerging megatrends. We look at next-gen tech-enabled consumer-focused companies, and then which are into category creator, market owner, and all of that tied up with a string of pearls strategy. Very elementary, very basic, any of us can do it. But unfortunate part is that since everyone can do it, anyone can do it, we don't do it. Because we are wired towards complexity. Yeah, the logo what it says, wealth creation, what we do, the growth part, and how we empower our entrepreneurs. Again, deep skin the game, simply because we believe all our GPs and money is also input much. We're the largest investor in any of the enterprises which we actually invest. This is the growth, how we start our journey, because journey is more interesting than destination. So that's the most interesting part. I believe we all want to move ahead with our boots on. So that's how we have grown slowly, started an SPV, got an angel fund license in 19, moved to a CAT 2 license in 22, got to a gift city license in 24, made around 30 odd investments plus the next size, and then that's how made some few exits. And this is some of the portfolio snapshot. Not all of them is there, but this is something which we talk. This is again the pull-up strategy which is there in place. So the pure portfolio snapshot across sectors. Some of the investments which we did, emerging megatrends, we had in Mugafi, we are in Wiom, We had
Have Mr. Satyam Darmora, co-founder and CEO of Wiom, joining us on stage for a fireside chat on building for stakeholders and impacting 500 million lives. An IIT Delhi alumnus, Satyam brings over 20 years of experience in the domains of finance and technology across leadership roles at American Express, Auxano Capital, IntelliGrow, and the Michael and Suzel Den Foundation. Through Wiom, Satyam and his team are bridging the digital divide and empowering millions by making internet accessible and affordable. Over to you, Satyam and Brijesh.
Thanks. No, it's not every day, where you get an opportunity to have a fireside chat with, with personalities you want to you enjoy with. I'll tell you, I'll have to share this with you. When Auxano started its first VC investment through the Satyam, actually interviewed us. Are we competent enough to invest in his entity? That is 2017, right, Satyam?
Yeah.
And we loved it. I remember me and Ashish, going and meeting him and meeting his existing capital investors. And then they said, yeah, these guys are good enough for you to be in the cap table. It's always the other way around, even today. But this was one of the rare instances where I said, wow, this happens in India also. So, I would like to talk about, and Satyam would like to share, about how over the last decade, Wiom, how Wiom in today's avatar has come into play. What Luis also shared about the resilience part of it, the team part of it. So if you can share, say in a quick 2 minutes about your journey, how it started, your mission, your vision has been constant, and how it has been here today.
Sure. So thanks, Brijesh. We strongly have believed that everybody deserves to have big dreams. हर आदमी को बड़े सपने देखने का हक है, but at times information is a hurdle. If I don't even know about opportunities, how would I even fulfill those dreams? And hence, it's almost fundamental that everybody should have access to information. There is a lot of information out there on the internet. So what Wiom is set out to do is for at least 50 crore Indians, will make that internet is almost free. It cannot happen that if you do not have money, you are not able to get onto internet and not get the information that can help fulfill your dreams. This has been the thesis with which we started, Brijesh, and this why of what we are has always been the same. There were, yes, ups and downs. The what keeps changing, how keeps changing almost on a everyday basis. But why we are here is because of this belief that dreams are so fundamental to people, everybody deserves to have it. Information is a great way to help people fulfill their dreams. Internet just happens to be a way which we have chosen today. Tomorrow there might be more ways. So the end state that we envision is that if you've got 5 rupees in your pocket, whatever information you want in the world, whether it's a chapter of a book, whether it is an episode of a OTT content, along with internet, you should be able to get it. Internet cannot be rationed 1.5 GB on a daily basis with a minimum commitment of 325 rupees in a country where average ARPU is 170. While for many of us, it might look like internet is cheap, it all depends on how we are looking at it. Yes, and if you look at India, the value for India is how do we match it with the cash that people have in their pockets. It's not about how do I reduce the ARPU or price over a longer time period. This has been the primary thesis of how we've been building it. Yes, like you said, it has been a journey where the first 4 years has been to work closely with the government, trying to get a new law in place, which fortunately today is, despite lot of, and I would say lot is probably a easier word. You know how strong telco lobbies can be. The biggest telco companies in the country opposing it, we were still able to get it, and that is where we've been fortunate. So to answer your question, I think it's just that that why keeps us moving. In our lifetime, if we are able to impact 50 crore lives and help them in enabling their dreams, it's worth it. And 10 years then looks like a very short time. Maybe it will take much longer.
So if you can tell how you were able to manage the stakeholders' expectations and not be caught down by their inputs on how they see the market or the ecosystem, and you convincing or saying this is the approach which we have to take for the growth, and you have pivoted. So I would like if you can share that part also. One, stakeholder management, and two, the pivot part.
So, Brijesh, for us, I think it has started by making sure that we're partnering with the kind of stakeholders where that mindset was aligning. Like you were also saying, is when we met for the first time, it has been very critical for us that not only the money, but the color of the money is equally important. Because it's not about making money. It's about, again, I'm going back to that thing. अगर अपनी lifetime में 50 crore का number achieve करना है of impacting that many lives, we can't take the risk of not having the set of people who are aligned to that purpose. So whether it is our investors, whether it's our employees, whether it is any of our partner, whether it is any of our customer, the only thing we keep talking about is that the reason we are doing it is dreams are fundamental, information is a hurdle, we want to remove it. And therefore, the stakeholders that came onto the table, I guess, were aligned with the fundamental problem that we are trying to solve. And in that case, the day-to-day performance becomes incidental, right? In fact, this whole confusion between performance and results, which typically gets merged, and people assume that performance is equal to result. Performance is giving your best within the controllable variables that you have. Results can have multiple other factors. So what has worked for us is aligning with the primary purpose and objective, focusing on our performance, giving our best. That we've been fortunate that these stakeholders have also been patient, because results might not come for a day, they might not come for a week, they might not come for a month, they might not even come for a year, they might not even come for a decade. But if we keep performing, and if we know what we are going into, we really believe they will come, right? Today also, I mean, it depends on how we define those results as such. I think we've been fortunate in terms of having some decent performances. Result would be the day we're able to help those 50 crore people to fulfill their dreams.
How about the pivot part? Because what the Wiom today and Wiom when you started, is like poles apart, except for the mission.
So, see, the how part of it is the pivot, right? And I think pivot looks like a technical term in certain ways. A startup is pivoting every single day. We are always trying to figure out what is the next way of making it work, making it work, making it work. Right? It's just that when it is more visible to the external world, we start to call it pivot. In our case, like I said, because the regulation fundamentally changed, it meant that we had to change our name to make it more user-centric. We started with a brand called I2E1, which stood for Information to Everyone. We had a slightly B2B connotation at that point of time. And we were working with the government to get this law in place. Some of you might not have heard of it, but this is actually very interesting. India is the only country with a law where if you have extra internet, you can officially sell it to someone else. There is no other country in the world which has a law like this. Just imagine the power of a fundamental law which allows any individual to resell their extra internet. As a country, we are sitting on 75% extra capacity of internet. Most of you guys might be sitting with extra GBs, your home internet, you might have taken a 1 Gbps or 300 Mbps plan, or you're not using it. But 90% of this country, 28 crore households consume or get only 300 MB of internet on a daily basis. A child cannot complete 30 minutes of class. A household, 28 crore households out of 32 crore households, this is 90% of Indian homes cannot watch a T20 cricket match end to end. They do not have enough data. Whereas the rest 4% has so much that if we redistribute it in some other ways, we can very easily serve 20 crore households. Now, these are some very fundamental shifts. We've been fortunate in our lifetime to be in a country like this, which has been actually, irrespective of which the government is, right? If you look at UPI, and this law that I'm talking about is actually called Vani, which has been built on very similar principles as UPI. These laws have allowed entrepreneurs or ecosystem to actually open up and make sure that we build services for everyone. And whenever such thing happens, it provides, I think it's a responsibility of an entrepreneur to be opportunist. If an opportunity comes, you have to grab it. We grabbed it from outside. It might look like a pivot, but I think we were just lucky at the right time, at the right place. Otherwise, we're pivoting every single day. I think that's
And
what's
the whole course journey, your core team, has been with you, if we can say that. How do you ensure that, they are there along with building up a team, along with the core team, building up the entire team and having a common vision which drives that? Because that's something which is, which can help or throw light.
Yeah, so, I'm just going back to what Luis said today, right? Luck plays a big factor, and we're fortunate. That's one part of the answer to get some of these amazing people. I think the other part of the answer is, why did they join in the first place? What were we selling them? And every single conversation with every single person who would have joined us at any stage has been about the purpose and not about the compensation that is on the table. I think I can say with a very reasonable amount of confidence that a company of our size and stage, we might have one of the best talents in the country. You talk of any B school in the world, from Harvard to any IIT to any IIM, we have people working. And they're not working because we're paying them higher. I think they're driven by the fundamental shift which is possible. And that is what we kind of share as a common dream. That is what we're working towards on a day-to-day basis. And perhaps that's what keeps long-term battles going. I mean, there have been wars for hundreds of years. Why do soldiers keep fighting for so long? Because there is a purpose for which you're fighting. You're not necessarily doing it driven by either money or post or something. Because just imagine for a second, right? When I'm talking about this 50 crore, this might look like a dream or a promise, but for a second, for a 1% probability, just imagine the day we would do it. It will be all worth it. There are 700 crore people in this country. And we would like to impact at least 50 crore people by 2030 by helping them, enabling their dreams. I really think that we've been fortunate to find people who could believe in that and give their best, and that's what has kept us going. And yes, we've been lucky.
And this is one of my favorite questions, what are things you say which one should not do as a promoter, as a founder, and which you learn the hard way or the soft way?
Yeah, I think that there's such a long list in my mind because you're learning on a day-to-day basis. But yes, at least what has helped us is not to take our eyes away from why we are here. At times, there are those decisions to be taken in terms of, if I do today, it might lead to certain short-term advantages, certain short-term money, but it doesn't pay off probably in the long run. So not getting not getting the right reasons to do what we are doing is fundamentally important. Uh, not, I mean, in the startup ecosystem nowadays, and we also, I mean, to be very honest, it's an important part for us to get the next set of investors and all. But if the goal becomes chasing valuation or chasing investors, then maybe that can be one of the example. It is important, it is necessary, but it is part of doing it. It should not become the purpose. Moment it becomes a purpose, it starts to create insecurity, it starts to bring in fear, and then suddenly things start to change.
Any questions from the audience? I have one question.
Yeah.
It's how has Auxano helped you in your journey till now? We have been there since 2017.
Yes. See, like I said, we feel fortunate because we've been partnered with people who believed in us, right? Moment I talk about telecom, the first thought that comes to every mind, and I'm pretty sure for most of you, it is that, there are two large elephants in the room and they will solve for it. Right? It's very difficult to be in this sector and to keep that conviction. Founders are ever optimistic, right? But for an investor to have that conviction on the founder, I think takes a lot. We have dealt with multiple kind of investors, but I would definitely rate you guys being right up over there to believe in that founder conviction, and whenever there have been tricky times, obviously based on a rational, logical decision, backing it up, right? And from a time where we would almost be outcast in any investor discussion because, when Jio got launched for next 3 years, people thought that there would be only one company in this country and nobody would talk about it. Fortunately now, with all that support, we've reached a level where the conversations are more about people say, oh, what you're doing is interesting. So people can resell their internet and, you guys are the first of its kind. So बढ़िया है, आप लोगों का exit अच्छा हो सकता है. One of these big guys might buy you. Right? So from being outcast, we are here. And, when I was offered this in a conversation, I said, yeah, that looks like a good outcome. But for a second, just think, what if it becomes the other way around? What if we end up impacting 50 crore lives, and in the journey, there is a possibility that instead of getting acquired, there is a possibility. Now, the confidence of saying that comes from the support and unwavering support that comes over time. Right? We had a tough times. There was COVID. We ran out of money. We did not have money to pay salaries. You guys came up. We got a check in our account within days. I think that's one of the reasons we have that level of confidence. We would have survived. I think, in my mind, I just think that we would survive no matter what happens. We would survive. But the degree of confidence and the velocity at which things would have been here would not have been if for the kind of support that we got. The second part also has been, being right in our roles. At times we have felt that as an investor, it at times is there are a lot of great inputs because you have more width in terms of knowing multiple things. We as founders start to create our own blind spots. So somebody can come and start showing us that mirror so that, yeah, and those are great insights. But at times the line gets blurred when people start to cross the line from what to how. And very soon that input starts to get into not what to do, but how to do it. Right? And I'm saying it more from, specifically two things that stand out for you guys have been, I think that amazing balance of giving us the right inputs whenever we were getting into our blind spots, pulling us out and telling us, hey guys, this is where things are. But at the same time, not making it too overwhelming for us in terms of even telling how to do things. Keeping that faith in us that, you put money on us, we'll probably figure out how that would happen. I think those two things are what stand out, Brajesh.
Thanks, Satyam. Thanks for sharing your journey. Thanks for, the Wiom team, Wiom is growing big. You'll hear more about Wiom in the coming few quarters. So all the good wishes to you and then that team. A round of applause to, Satyam.
Thank you so much.
Just
Thank you, Satyam, for sharing your journey with Wiom. Now, I would request Mr. Ajay Kumar to present the token of appreciation. Next up, we have an insightful panel session on the changing consumer behavior in India and the rise of hyperlocal commerce. Our panelists include Mr. Suresh Bansal, founder of DCG Bank, Mr. Rahul Sood, founder and MD of ClickFlyer, and Mr. Darshan Krishnasamy, founder and CEO of Adlocks. Mr. Karan Gupta and Ms. Mansi Handa from Team Auxano would be moderating the panel. Over to you, Karan and Mansi.
No? Good evening, everyone. I'm Mansi with my colleague Karan here. Today we will talk about the fast growth of India consumption story. We have with us three exceptional entrepreneurs, each leading disruptive businesses that are shaping the landscape. They are not just building companies, they are building the future of aspirational India. I would now like to request our panelists to briefly introduce themselves.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Darshan. I represent Adlocks. We are a startup that's aggregating delivery services across India and empowering businesses to go hyperlocal. It's a pleasure to be here.
Hi, I'm Rahul. I am one of the co-founders of ClickFlyer. What we do is we help business analyze promotions and we give them a 360-degree perspective of what's happening in the market in the FMCG sector and the retailers at this point in time.
Good evening, everybody. This is Suresh Bansal. I'm the founder and CEO of DCG Pack. We are a packaging solution company, a tech-driven platform, and we serve a B2B customers in the MSME and in the corporate world. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your introduction. Let us begin with you, Darshan. Logistics is a key enabler of hyperlocal delivery. So we would like you to help us understand how Adlogs is leveraging technology to make logistics more efficient in the last mile, given that India has a diverse urban and rural ecosystem.
So, so logistics, the way I see it is, logistics is the bridge that connects with aspiration to access, right? So what's happening right now is, while it's got a diverse landscape and the requirements are the same, and emerging trends show that everybody wants to have that instant gratifications and get stuff delivered. It started off as an hour, 30 minutes, 10 minutes, I don't know what it's going to become. But we are lucky to be in India because we can get technology at our disposal quickly, and we've got excellent brains regardless of where we are located. And we are leveraging on technology that can build, making the space a lot faster and a lot easier. So we are able to quickly come up with solutions that turn around, whether it requires local language access or stuff that needs to be delivered faster with live tracking, and also the way we leverage technologies, the AI boom that's come up now, that's helping us a lot in scheduling and planning and achieving these delivery efficiencies a lot better.
Okay, so just to add on to it, it's been in here about our investment with Adlogs, and I think the company's grown by approximately 5x. Also, you've expanded internationally. So could you just help us understand how your technology leverage and building in India is helping you to grow globally?
So we are aspiring to expand internationally, but we're still not there yet. So just like to correct you there. But yes, in India, we are able to build it a lot cheaper than our counterparts overseas, which is one of our biggest advantages that we have. And number two, even if we come late to a party, we actually come up with some solutions which are really better than what our counterparts across the globe have. So some of the stuff that we have, for example, the aggregator platform that we've built, when we go and pitch it to someone, say in the Middle East, they feel, okay, you guys have already got this, which is pretty more advanced than what they have got there. So, which is easier for us to actually go and pitch it. It's very easy to sell it actually to someone like that. So I think that's what sets us apart in comparison to our counterparts across in other countries.
Got it. Talking on the global scale, so Suresh, logistics has been one of your forte as well in the past, and you have a kind of global exposure. So could you help us understand that as the India move towards the 5 trillion economy, how do you see the market opportunities shape up in India, given your global exposure and understanding of the markets?
Karan, thank you very much. I think India is the biggest emerging story in the entire world. The businesses are growing, and logistic industry is always one of the biggest concern area for this country. We are spending almost 14% as part of the GDP, whereas in all other countries far, far lower, it's about 7-8%. And I think the entire industry and the entire government is working towards reducing this cost for the entire industry. So we see that the technology use, there is a widespread of new ways of doing logistics, and things are shaping up as the international players are coming in, the domestic players are doing joint ventures, there are new startup companies, there are new ideas, and there is a huge growth in the entire logistics space. We also see the infrastructure helping this entire space. It was a time when it will take 6 days to reach Bangalore for a truck, and now it takes only about 60 hours. And it has made big strides and big changes where the logistics is going to help the entire country. Thank you.
And within the logistics, the next aspect is packaging, which DCG Pack is pioneering with innovation. So, what's your take on innovation in packaging, and especially looking into the sustainability part of it?
Karan, when I was talking at a logistic conference last time, and there was a topic on packaging, people were wondering why packaging in logistic, whereas packaging is very much part of logistic industry. It's a complementary product, because we at logistic always deal with parcels and packages, and we see the quality and the importance of the packaging all around. I think packaging nowadays is no more a protector of the product. It is a very, very strategic statement by the brand to the customer. And packaging plays an extremely important role. And I think traditionally, this has been completely handled by all the manufacturers. And there was no company in this country who can solve problems for the MSMEs, who can solve problems for the sellers. There were millions of sellers in the country who were struggling to buy packaging. Where do they find Amazon packaging? Where do they find Flipkart packaging? We also saw customers who are multi-location, who have several fulfillment centers, distribution centers. How do they solve these problems on the packaging side? So there has been a massive opportunity in this country on the packaging side.
I think as an investor, then we've identified one of the right opportunities. Backbone for logistics, as you mentioned, is packaging, and I think we've identified a good company in that space.
Thank you, sir.
So Rahul, this one is for you. ClickFly's platform enables retailers to target consumers by harnessing data. Do you see any personalization and predictive insights during the next wave of consumer engagement?
Yeah, I think the most important part today is data. And today with, so most important part today is data. And what we see here is that unless you have data, you can't predict whatever a customer is looking for. Say for example, today in hyperlocal businesses, most of the business is conducted through apps. The total space, the real estate on an app that you get is so small that if you want to cross-sell something or upsell something, it is impossible to do it because somebody does not see it there. So how do you target somebody from an insights perspective unless you have the data? So what we do is we collect something like 8 billion rows of data every year, and we tell the retailers or the FMCG companies as to what they should be doing from an app perspective, from a promotion perspective, and we tell brands as to how to analyze the data and give them the right perspective on what is it that a customer wants. So I think that is the key today. So getting your predictive analytics, getting the right kind of information out to customers as to what is it that their B2C customers want is what we do, and we help them do that.
So it adds value to both the customer, the retailers, and the brands.
Absolutely. So it adds value to the customers, and why do the customers use us is only for a simple reason that they get value in terms of what is happening in the market in terms of promotions, what's the lowest price. So we help them save roughly about 30 to 40% on their grocery bills. If you add it up over a year, it turns out to be a large amount. Similarly, for brands, if they want to know what is it, is the brand value, is it becoming better? Is the customer interacting more? What is it that they should be selling? Because on a mobile phone, you just have a very, very limited space. And how to target whom is what the insights help them with.
Right. So what are the particular industries that you usually work with?
So we are working with the largest retailers in the Middle East. We are working with, out of the top 10 retailers, we work with 9 of them in the Middle East. Amongst the top 50 FMCG companies, I think we work with about 30, 35 of them in the Middle East, and we give them insights as to what is available, what is happening in the market from a business intelligence perspective, as well as from a consumer perspective of what is available in the market.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So here we have 3 founders who complementing each other, building for India, for the world, and for India. Darshan, Adlogs in logistics, packaging with Mr. Suresh, DCG Pack, and ultimately making it accessible to the consumer at the right price and at the right place through ClickFlyer and Rahul. So, and your past entrepreneurial journeys have also been a lot, have contributed positively in shaping your current thought processes and positioning for your brands. Could you shed some light on how your past experiences and learnings have helped you shape your current brands and build competitive advantages? And I think we can begin with you, Suresh, here.
Thank you, Karan. In the past, I have run IT company, I have run logistic companies, I sold my company, I exited those organizations. And it has been a long journey, and all the time you learn new lessons from whatever you do in life. So we saw that, in my IT company days, that building a talent or building a team is the number one priority and the best thing to do in life. You must surround yourself with the most intelligent and smarter people, so that you are all around with intelligentsia. That is what was required in the IT days. And I think it is so relevant today when you start a new startup. Today the dynamics of business has already changed. It is far different than what it used to be a couple of decades back. So technology has become the biggest leveler here, and technology first must be the strategy in any startup company today. So when we started DCG Pack, we started this as a tech company. We named this as a DCG Tech Limited. DCG Pack is our brand, but it's a tech company. From the day one, we had decided that we are going to do anything, it has to be technology first. And that's what exactly we did. In fact, we call ourselves as the packaging orchestrator, which combines together the technology, the supply chain experience, and domain knowledge together. And that is how we deliver solutions to our customers.
So I think key takeaways from what you said is technology first, the right positioning, and I think for a lot of people in the audience, you said two words, investors and exit, which sounds bells to them. So adding to this, Rahul has also exited his past venture and successfully exited. So Rahul, could you share your experience that you learned in your previous venture and how you're applying it in this venture?
So I think the basics of all investments are build a great product, spend time on it, do enough research, and don't be in a rush. If you build a great product, there's no way that you will not succeed. I think that is the only one which I would come to. Don't be in a rush, spend your time will come. That's it.
Darshan, your view?
So I'll probably borrow stuff from Rahul now, because I'm going to say I have failed a couple of times already. So I've closed 2 companies before I landed on the one I'm running now. So what I learned was I did not build a great product, and maybe I worked hard, but probably didn't work very smart. And then I think eventually the one good thing I did was, I didn't burn through somebody else's money. I think it was all mine first, so it wasn't too accountable to anyone. And I learned how not to run a business. Perhaps that's the key here. The good thing is I've always been in the logistics space, so it was never that I've gone out of it. So borrowing from what Mr. Luis Miranda said, I think we had the B and the W, perhaps the L was missing. And when we realized, I was doing it wrong the whole time, the penny dropped and we started building the right things. So I think if you fail, it's okay, I believe. It's okay, as long as you can get up with all the lessons learned and can come back. I think it's the worst thing is to give up, I would say. So you have to stick on. So
this time you've raised the financial investor capital, and I hope this time we'll see very different results from the past ones.
Like I said, it's not just the capital. Actually, the 11 years of learning would probably come in very handy, and so I think that would contribute a lot. And I've got a kick-ass team this time, so I'm very bullish.
Great. So I think let me build on to the same point. As founders, you are also investors in your own businesses. You invest your blood, sweat, equity, money, everything that is what you have is invested into these businesses. And then we have financial investors, external investors who are part of your journeys. One thing that you would like to share with them that tells them that how these asset class as a startup is a compelling investment opportunity, and what is the driving force that helps this innovation?
So if you ask me if it's a compelling thing, I would probably say yes, because where will you get this exponential, exits like what people are seeing in this, in many startups? So I'm pretty sure that it is a compelling asset class. But innovation, I mean, you're not just investing in businesses, right? You're actually investing in the future industry. So basically what you're motivating is to build the next generation of entrepreneurs. So never have, running a business now with the right idea is become a lot easier now. I mean, 20 years ago when Luis was saying, that's what I was thinking. Yes, it was so difficult at that time, but now it's a lot easier. We have easy access to capital. We got wonderful people who actually come in, back even a bad idea and try and, mold it into a good idea, mentoring. So much access is there. So now I think it's a great time to be in business right now. So you have the right idea and you've got, some conviction to your idea and you're willing to work hard. I think you have. So from an investor perspective, I think you've got, if you find your right person to invest in, your returns are quite, the downside is predictable, which you already know what you're investing in, but the upside is quite exponential, isn't it? So I'd say it is a compelling asset class.
That's great. I think a lot of people will catch you after the event and have a word with you on this. Rahul, you've also had successful exits in the past. So what have been your experiences and what is it that you would like to share with the investors present today in terms of the asset class that we are investing in?
So I think, as I said earlier, the most important is the product. To give you an example, that when we started our product, we got the largest brands to subscribe to our products like the Unilevers in the FMCG sector. And as I said, 7 of the 10 top brands subscribed to us by not making a single visit to the companies that were existent in a different geography. So in the previous ventures, this is my 5th career and completely different from each other. The only key is get the right product, people will come. That's it.
Karan, for me, I always treat myself as an investor in the company, exactly like you invest in my company. Okay, so I have a very high responsibility about my investment, and so is for you. I think when you build a business, it is not about one function, rapid sale, or temporary ups and big growth trajectories. It is about building a sustainable business. It's about building sustainable, profitable business as an organization. If you can work around your strategies and your offering for the customer, where customer will have a long-term commitment to you, they'll come back again and again, and you truly add value to their business. You truly save money for them. Then I think you are in a fine business, and your investments are always safe. And I think this is what we have demonstrated in DCG Pack, that we have over 90% retention rate for our customers. And our customers, some of them have grown 8x, 10x over the last 3-4 years. We have customers as long as 5 years, 6 years now who are dealing with us, and they are continuously growing their business with us. And I think this is a very compelling reason for your investment in DCG Pack.
Definitely, sir. Definitely. I think, and also I would like to just add here that, with Darshan and Rahul, we've had over 1.5 years of journey in terms of our discussions and everything. Anything on the investor prudence that you would like to mention, especially with your experiences with Auxano, as external capital with Auxano was the first time you actually went out in the markets to raise. So any of your short experiences that you'd like to share here?
I think from my perspective, being in joint ventures with the largest companies globally in the past, I would say with Auxano, it was very thorough. It took a lot of time because of the thoroughness of what Auxano was doing, and they went into each and every single detail, which at some points in time was irritable, and at some point in time gave us the confidence that if we are getting a partner who's as thorough as they are, it is going to help us go in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Should I say?
Yeah, please.
So I think Auxano's thoroughness is actually, I mean, like Rahul said, it comes to a point where we decide, oh my God, is it this much to do? Is it really worth the effort of raising funds? All right, so it's frustratingly accurate, and it's thorough. So basically, but what it's done to us as a company is that the journey was arduous. It was many a times I was wondering, should I even pursue this? It's so difficult, because despite us doing the right thing, there are a few things which we already know and we do, but there are so many unknown things which they suddenly pop up and we're expected to do it. So the journey becomes longer and longer and longer. But what it has done is it has prepared us to the next level. So now we feel that after their intervention, we've become very conscious of the stuff that we need to be doing. And it does help that we have regular calls with them and we get a lot of reminder mails. But the good thing is I think it's something that as a founder it's very hard for us to know. I've never known. I usually considered myself smart till I reached their office. All right. And then every meeting I said, okay, I'm smart at maybe these things. Then I said, no, I'm smart at maybe, and finally the only thing I was smart at was, okay, maybe I'm smart at delivering products. Maybe everything else, maybe I should find people to do it for me. So it perhaps leveled me a lot. And now, perhaps I think I'll be very ready for my next round, because I think we've got all the stuff done. So I personally tell my team that if we satisfy Auxano, perhaps we'll be satisfying anybody.
Thank you so much for your kind words, and don't doubt on your smartness, but definitely prudence is something that we look at and will continue to challenge you. And with Sureshji, with you, we will definitely pick your brain on this in the next time also. Right now it's a start, but definitely if you want to add something.
Yes, absolutely. I think it's few months now I've been meeting Auxano team and I'm so impressed. Especially my interaction has been with Mohitji, and he's such a phenomenal guy. In one of the discussion with all my experience for so many years, I was talking to him about a problem about the contract manufacturing. And I never forget how easily and how quickly he gave the advice to change and how to do it differently. And I could go back and change my business model because of his advice. Also, we being a very digital first organization, our results, monthly results, we are able to announce within 1 hour of the closing. For last 5 years, we have never ever missed even once sending our results before the investors or board members get up from their bed on first of the morning, including New Year, including Diwali, including anything happen. Even if I'm on a cruise, this result will go on first. And it's the first time I saw that Mohitji always acknowledged this quality, and he endorsed that this is how the founders should be, that you are always on top of your numbers, and it is a timely information which creates so much confidence with the investors. And that's what I did in DTDC for so many years, for Reliance and for our investors in France. We did our reporting before 12th of each month, whereas Infosys used to do it on 13th of the month.
I think we treat this as a industry gold standard, and prescribe this and recommend this to all our founders, and give you an example of the kind of proactiveness you have in terms of sharing information with the investors. That's amazing, and
Yeah, so I think we have given a lot of insights to our audience that we have to be resilient and put the product first, and be sustainable. And what not to do also, that is also a big learning from our past ventures. But what other advice you would like to give to our audience, the budding entrepreneurs and our audience, to take away?
I think everybody knows today what to do. It's as simple as that. I think everybody says perseverance, everybody says keep at it, don't let go. Everybody says build a great product or do whatever you want, build a great team. I think everybody knows today what to do, the 5 things to do in building a great business. None of us can say anything about it, but just keep at it. That's it.
What not to do?
I think you have to be prudent to build a business which is as if it's for keeps forever. I personally believe that the business is, when we've exited many businesses. If you have to exit a business, you have to exit a business because it's a business. But you have to run it as if you're going to keep it forever and be as prudent in every single aspect of the business that you go on with.
I think that's very true, that you have to be invested in the business yourself.
Yeah.
Right. Your thoughts?
I wouldn't call it advice. I'd probably call it advice for myself. What I think is love the problem as much as you love your solution, because I think that's going to be, I mean, you started a business to solve a problem. So as we scale, as we grow, I think we should not lose sight of the problem that we came to solve first. So I always tell myself, look, I'm here to solve that problem, and whether it's a big company, small company, am I solving the problem? That's the core. Because business, it will keep happening, you know, as far as I'm doing the right thing. And I think that's what I keep telling myself. So it helps someone. Great.
Just to add to what I said earlier, I think one thing will always happen in any business is, as a founder, as an entrepreneur, you will be sitting in that corner at least once in your business, pulling your hair and crying and saying, why am I here? I shouldn't have been here. And I can say that without doubt for every single founder. There will be a time when you will sit in that corner and pull your hair. But that's a part of the journey. So just go through it, because all of us have been through it multiple times.
Suresh, before you add, in the audience, we would be having a lot of founders. Any founders who maybe do not agree to the point of pulling their hair once in a while? Anybody? And maybe raise of hands for those who believe that it's true that once in a while you will be pulling your hair. Okay, quite a few here. Thank you. Your inputs.
Basically, I think Luis spoke all of it, and then Rahul and Darshan. There is nothing really which I can add. I only 2 cents of advice that plans are great, but execution is everything. I think if you know the art of execution, that's the most important. That's number 1. And number 2, many times as founders, we come from technology background or engineering background, or we are obsessed with our products, and we forget the compliance part of running an organization. And I think that's such a key for your future and future of the investors and future of employees, as well as for the customers, that compliance is nowadays especially has become extremely important part of running a business. So just keep that up to date.
I think Auxano will make sure you do that.
I was going to say that.
I think that's a good vouch. Thank you. So we have some time. Any questions from the audience? Please. You can get this one.
First of all, thank you for a great panel. I think I'm from consumer goods, so Rahul helps me with the insight, Suresh helps me pack, and Darshan helps me deliver. So that's my entire consumer goods ecosystem right up there. And I thought I'll pick your brains in solving the biggest business problem I have, right? And it's what I call the India people paradox. Huge unemployment, great talent, but it's the toughest part, finding great talent to do great work, right? So my question, like just to give you an example, today maybe Darshan will be my biggest competitor because I don't have feet on street. They're all going into hyperlocal, right? So my question here is, how do you go about finding the right talent for the right role? Because you don't want the best people in everything, right? You need people who are fit for purpose. So my question is, how do you go about finding the right talent for the right role? That's the problem I'm trying to solve.
So, I don't have a direct response to you, but I'll tell you what we did. All right. So, talent crunch is perhaps everywhere, whether it's technology or whether management or anything. So, my biggest concern was technology. So, when I wanted to build Adlogs, I went to Bangalore first, like most of us would have done, to find somebody to build that technology for me. And so I had some money left after burning through everything, and and also I had a very angry wife at home. Was anytime I would have gotten a notice. So with all those things in mind, I went to Bangalore and I spoke to a few people, and they said, look, the charges, or even to hire my CTO or my developer was crazy. And I live in a small town. I live in I say it's Coimbatore, but it's about 40 kilometers away from Coimbatore. So it's a T3 town, right? And when I went to Bangalore, I had a reality check. I said, no, I can't afford anybody. First of all, it's not that they don't have talent. It's like great guys, great products, but I can't afford them right now. So I took my bus back and we said, okay, how do we do this? So, and then I found a guy who's a developer. I picked him up, I met him at a conference like this. He was clueless, I was clueless. We both said we got into talking, and we said, okay, let's build this product. And then we hired guys who we could find within our locality, and we trained them. So it took me 6 months to bring them up to speed of what we were doing. And after that, we were able to build it. So I was willing to put in the time, right? Because I thought I had the luxury of time than money at that point of time. So I actually trained what I wanted. And I started believing in that model ever since. So I thought there's no point in burning money and, getting the guys if they're not doing anything different. I'd rather, unless there's a staring opportunity that's sitting with me now. So today we are able to take the decisions a bit more subjectively where, okay, do I have to hire this person right now? And even now we drive a hard bargain. And so talent at times, at various stages of your business, I think you can create that pool around you. I would probably vouch for that. Or if you're in a stage where you can actually, that hire is going to build great value, maybe you should buy that talent with the maximum what you could do.
As an investor, a lot of times, founders ask us build versus buy. I think from you, I get an answer that's really subjective and based on your resources. There is no fixed answer to this build versus buy. You build, and sometimes when you have the right resources, you buy. Great. Any other questions? So.
Okay, so I thought I'll ask you this because there are people in the panel who have exited many businesses. So finding co-founders is one of the great challenges which I felt myself and also saw. So now when you exited, perhaps Rahul, you could say, did you continue with the pool of the co-founders you already had, and then how do you go about solving this problem? Getting co-founders is more difficult than getting employees, or even looking at an employee and hoping they'll become co-founder is also a bad idea.
I think I would count myself as a very lucky person because the co-founder with me, I have known him longer than my wife. So we were studying together, and this is the third business that we are doing together. From a co-founder perspective, there's one lesson that I learned when I was very young, and that is, if you have a co-founder, have a heart large enough to bury his weaknesses. If you can do that, you will continue forever. That is key in having a co-founder as well as continuing in a relationship when you go into a business. Everybody has weaknesses. I have, he has, everybody has. Your employees have. So if you have a heart large enough to bury his weaknesses, you will find the right co-founder, you will not find faults in him, and you'll continue forever. That's my thought.
I think, Suresh, you can also have a pretty interesting insight. I know the dynamics, the audience can know.
Okay, just to add what Rahul said, in my IT company, I had 3 founders because we all came together from an IT background and we formed a company. All 3 of them were different age, different religion, different qualification, and we all came together to build an IT company. Okay, so we went to our common friend to draft a agreement for the co-founders together, so that how are we going to operate together. He said, give me 20 days time and I will draft some agreement. So after 20 days we met Mr. Lal. I used to be in Bombay those days, and he said, here is my agreement, and he gave one single piece of paper with 2 lines written on it. Principle 1, none of us will ever do any business outside this company which we have come together, directly or indirectly. That's principle 1. Principle 2, even if God comes and tells me he did something wrong, I will trust him and not God. That's it. So we all signed on this document, and we lived together for 15 years until we sold this company. And that was one example. What Rahul said, it adds up.
Trust is key.
Absolutely.
And in our case, we ran the last company, which was Iron Mountain India, for 7 years before an investor, which was, of course, Iron Mountain, which came in to invest into us. And when we were doing the due diligence, and ICICI, whoever was doing the due diligence, we started looking for the agreement that we had signed 7 years ago between us. And we found the agreement which was lying there, which was not signed by any of us. So we signed it after 7 years, not realizing that we had an agreement in place. So I guess trust is key. Trust is key here.
I think a round of applause for Mr. Lal, who's actually given a very wise advice.
Absolutely.
Any last questions?
May I actually add one more point with this co-founder thing? Like, you can find co-founders in the most unlikely localities. In my opinion, I found one of my co-founders in my competitor's office. the bugger is sitting somewhere there.
Can we have you please raise your hand?
All right. And when we got to discuss and saying, look, we have more things in common than your current company, why don't you come and join us? All right, so inspiration can come from anywhere, right? So I think, but I've learned a couple of things. That's a good point you made, actually, I think trust is very important, right? So we need to trust, without any question, I would say. So
I think trust, and then you added that openness of thought process, wherein you really meet a co-founder in your competitor's company. Any last final question, please? I think that summarizes the conversation.
So thank you, Suresh, Rahul and Darshan, for a very insightful discussion. And I'm sure we leave our audience with a lot of pearls of wisdom from you, and also to the founders and budding entrepreneurs.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, panelists, for sharing your valuable experience and insights on the India consumption story. I request you all to continue being on the stage as we present the token of appreciation. Starting with Mr. Suresh Bansal, I request Mr. Vikramjit Singh. Next, Mr. Rahul Sood, I request Mr. Karan Gupta. And for Mr. Darshan Krishnasamy, I request Ms. Mansi Handa. And finally, I would like to request Mr. Kanoj Jadwani from Team Auxano to present the vote of thanks.
Hi everyone, I'll keep it very quick. First and foremost, I would like to highlight all of us coming together as a driving force for Aspirational India. This vision lies at the core of what we do at Auxano, where we have got the opportunity to partner with some of the most emerging stories out of India, be it quick commerce with Adlocks or artificial intelligence with Mugafi. Your beliefs and investments fuel that, and we look forward to growing together. A special thanks to Auxano and Bellwether team to bringing this evening to life. On behalf of all of us, thank you again for being part of India Investment Ignition 3.0. We also have Major Manik's publication showcase outside, so do drop by for your signed copy. Dinner and drinks are now open. We are signing off until the next one. Thank you.